Johnson. He's near the wall. He's got it. It's trotted out like a home run. Just a big out. Bennett to the top of the stretch. He delivers. Here is a smack up the middle for a base hit. It's through. Started out. It's going to third. He will make it without a throw.
Ground ball hit right back at Marichal. The throw to second. They got Gallup with a rundown. There's the throw to Hart. He's tagged out. And the throw is to fade. Taylor gets back into first safely.
There goes a ball looped to right center. That's a hit. Here comes Callison home. Covington's going to hit for the plate. Here's a throw. It's into second base. The ball game right on the line here. And for the moment, right between Bennett.
Well, with that little bit of an intro and a little bit, hopefully it wasn't on a glitch on the outside, but I want to just welcome everybody to the newest Carl's Corner. And we've come up with a special guest and someone who has put a Facebook page of the 64 Phillies, and you have to be a certain age to actually have gone through coming from the Philadelphia area. I'm here with my cousin Vince and Stephen, who's you're down by the New Jersey Shore in Ventnor.
I'm at the shore, at the Jersey Shore.
Yes. So I'm here in California, and I have some friends here who are big Dodgers fans and who's San Francisco Giants fans. So I know this is going to be Philadelphia Central as far as what we're talking about. But people who are baseball fans and then being at a certain age and understanding the history of baseball and actually what happened to our beloved team back in 1964 with the Phillies. So, Steve, I want to just thank you for, first of all, what was the motivation for?
Well, I just want to say one thing, Carl, about the people of a certain age. We check Medicare cards before you can join. You can't. If you don't have a Medicare card, you couldn't possibly have any memories of this team. So, actually, Medicare Plus. Yeah, you asked me what the motivation is. The motivation is, like you said, most of us or many of us from this age that were Phillies fans, 60 years later, we're still talking about it. We're still thinking about it. We're still, going through the what ifs of what could have happened. And so I have always wanted to write a book about it, but writing a book is much harder than you can imagine. And I spent a lot of time, about 15, 20 years ago, I interviewed a bunch of players and a bunch of people whose names are well known, but I never got anything on paper. So I kind of shifted gears and thought, well, maybe a book about Gene Mauch. And I did the same thing. I've talked to a lot of people, and it never happened either. So I said, well, let's, you see this topic come up on Facebook a lot in various groups, the old-time Phillies, old-time Philadelphians, growing up in the 60s, that kind of thing. So I said, you know what, why don't we have a group devoted just to the 64 Phillies fans? And so here we are. It's only, I think I started it around New Year's, and it didn't really take off. It seems to have started to take off lately, because I think according to that, what are we up to? 696. So we're getting there. I mean, last week, I think I posted something, we were at 450. So here we picked up about close to 250 in a little more than a week. So we're getting there. And it's interesting. And, people can talk about anything that they want to talk about, any memories that they have, any players that they have. Some guy today put up was really neat, I thought. Was a picture of him getting an autograph from Clay Dalrymple. I mean, how cool was that? And goes back to 64 when he was 10 years old, just like I was. So that's the motivation behind it. It's just neat. It's just a neat thing. So
once I saw this Facebook page, I immediately was part of it. And I find through my cousin, he was also part of this, but then you two guys actually knew each other back in the day, correct?
We were paper boys.
And we pulled in the same league.
What's that, Vince?
We bowled on the same junior bowling team.
We bowled together. We were paper boys, and we used to, being a paper boy back in those days was really great because, I got to know and become very close to a guy like Vince. He and I, we didn't have much in common other than being paper boys, but we got very close. And then it turns out that we had a lot of friends in common. And we actually, he saw a comment of mine. I don't know on what kind of group it was. He saw a comment of mine and he reached out to me and said, were you a paper boy back in the day? And I said, yeah, you got me, guilty. And then
you're also a Sunday branch captain.
I was Sunday branch. Yeah, listen, I don't want to brag, but it was a great time. We used to go bowling. We would deliver the papers early Sunday morning, and then we'd go up and bowl. I think it was from 9 to 12. We could bowl like unlimited for maybe $1. We go out to breakfast.
Toddle House
with a guy named Chuck who he used to smoke. He was the only guy who used to smoke and used to get a cup of coffee and leave a 10-cent tip. Big spender.
Well, I have to just use for people that are from out here and whoever's going to watch this. Now, Philadelphia is a big city geographically, and I moved to the South Jersey area. But Vince and Steve, you were up in the Northeast area of the Philadelphia area, correct?
Yeah, we were. It was the lower Northeast. We were below Cotman,
right.
So it was. I mean, it was called Oxford Circle. Now they changed it to Castor Gardens. It sounds
or
better.
Mayfair.
What is it? Mayfair. Well, Mayfair always did exist, but Mayfair was the other side of the boulevard. So that's where my cousin's deli was. Greenman's Deli was in Mayfair. We were the lower, I guess you could say just below Cotman. I don't know if you'd call that the lower Northeast or the. I don't know. But we know there were tons of kids. There were kids, and kids. And
with that being kids, that we were always engaged in some kind of sport. And obviously I'm 1 year older than my cousin. And we were always intrigued by baseball. That was our first initial one.
Sure.
And we always have our memories of playing a wiffle ball game, maybe getting into Little League. And then obviously our idols were the Philadelphia Phillies, the professional team in Philadelphia. And we all have memories of going to that first game at, good old Connie Mack Stadium.
Right.
What I know, I'm sure you have the same memories the first time walking in. I know mine was July of '62, no TV that was in color, seeing the green grass, seeing the red uniforms, and I'm assuming you have the same feeling.
Absolutely. My first game was in '63. I went with a group from Max Meyer's Playground.
Oh God.
And my father had to work 2 jobs to support the family, and he wasn't a real big baseball fan, so he wasn't exactly taking us to games. So when I saw that to go to a game, I said, "Oh, I'm going." They played the Giants, and I remember Willie Mays made a great play on Ruben Amaro. That's about all I remember from that game. But seeing the green grass and the smell of the French fries, the grease smell,
and the hot dogs, and the beer, and it was. We did not really realize until obviously we got to a certain age when they built the vet, and now Citizens Bank Park back in Philadelphia, that we were part of amazing history, and we're here for your page, which is the '64 Phillies, and we know they had a miraculous year. They didn't end well, but it's 60 years that we're going to commemorate that season. And I think, Steve and Vince, that once people see this initial podcast, maybe it'll get interest. And I know, Steve, you said there'd be people that maybe want to be a part of this. If we could go live, interview some people. Maybe some of the players are still with us. So you think that I think this will have legs to it.
Yeah, well, we've got some people. Johnny Callison's granddaughter, Julie, had been, I'd seen her make posts in various groups where her, as she calls him, her pop's name came up. And so I saw something and I invited her. I said, Julie, we'd love to have you in this. And she's been just a very prolific poster. We also have the son of Chris Short. Christopher, his name is Christopher Ron Short. He's in, and the grandson of a guy who didn't play a whole lot on the team, but he was up there, Costin Shockley, his grandson. So plus, we've got our mutual friend Sam Karshidi, who actually got me. I had met Bill Campbell. There you go, Costin Shockley. I had met Bill Campbell a bunch of times throughout the years. You couldn't help but meet Bill Campbell if you were a sports fan. But Sam was the guy that really introduced me to him and allowed me to get to know Bill a little bit. So Bill's daughter is a member of their group, Christine. So we've got we also have Frank Fitzpatrick, another excellent writer from the Inquirer. I remember 10 years ago, Frank wrote a column. He was still working for the Inquirer. He wrote a column 10 years ago in which the theme of the column was, all right, guys, 50 years of this is enough. No more talk about the 64 Phillies after 50 years. So I have reminded him about that a few times. And I said, well, Frank, here we are at 60, and we're still talking about it. And I've asked him to post that column. He hasn't done it to my knowledge, but it's really something. And I remember the reaction he got was, oh, no. People were telling him, no, Frank, we're going to talk about it as long as we're all alive. And so here we are. Now we're at 60.
You think he would probably be able to come on this podcast?
I'm going to invite him. He actually left a comment saying he's in. So I'll reach out to him. And
once you see the Frank, you're in. I know Sam will probably want to be a part of this. I know he's getting involved with a big Flyers project, and plus he's still covering the Flyers.
Yeah, Sam's a great guy. Sam is, and he's a terrific writer. He co-wrote the book with Bill Campbell. I actually met him when he had written a book about a high school athlete who my son went all through school with, Adam Talaferro. And that's how I met Sam. Sam had written the book, and of course we knew Adam, and Sam's just a great guy. Whenever you see him, he's always got time to talk, and so he would be an absolute joy to have on this. So, and I know you have very good connections to him, Carl.
Well, it's just very fortunate that going to college, a good old Glassboro State College back in the mid-'70s, because I actually transferred from Camden County College for the last 2 years, communication major. And somehow Sam and I met and became instant friends because we both enjoyed sports. But then we ended up having on Sunday nights at their little radio station here. We had a Sunday night sports program one of the semesters. We had a ball, before internet. We had, ticker tape and wire and talk about sports. And here we are 60 years later. Now, I did a documentary on him about 10 years ago, about 11 years ago, about him. They had all these documentaries about players and things. I said, we should actually do a documentary on a reporter, what a reporter does. So it's up on YouTube, and we'd probably play it again. But then I had that pleasure. So here we are 60 years later, be able to get us all back together again. And through the connection with my cousin Vince, we were part of the initial street hockey leagues in South Jersey and Philadelphia. And he was on a street hockey team. I was on a street hockey team. Now, I was not that good of a player. My cousin Vince was excellent. And I realized I should become more of a referee than a player. So that's where all that came around. So that's, it's amazing how it comes full circle.
You mentioned, the sports writers. We have really been blessed in Philadelphia to have such fabulous sports writers and broadcasters. And, the list goes on and on. You talk about Stan Hockman, Alan Lewis, Sandy Grady,
Dolson.
But the one who's my favorite, after Bill Campbell, my favorite is Ray Didinger. And I met Ray Didinger at the memorial for Johnny Callison. And I've never met a guy who is the same persona on TV and in public as he is in private in person. Just the nicest man. So I interviewed him for my my ill-fated book that never got off the ground. He was very gracious with his time spent. I went over to see him in NFL Films, and I learned from him. One of the questions I asked everybody who I interviewed who was a fan was, who's your favorite player? And you get some unusual responses. So his response was Jack Bolchin. And I've used the trivia question. I've posted this places. I said, now there's a member of the NFL Hall of Fame whose favorite player was Jack Bolchin. Can you name the member of the Hall of Fame? And, you get all kinds of crazy, and I always say it's a trick question. You get all kinds of crazy responses. Nobody, of course, is thinking of a writer who's in the Hall of Fame, but that's the trivia question. And Ray, I'd love to see Ray. To my knowledge, still doesn't have a cell phone. He didn't have a cell phone for the longest time. I don't know if he has one.
I don't think he does.
Yeah, but he tells a great story. He had told me the story, and then when he signed off the air, his last broadcast, which we all knew wasn't going to be his last broadcast, but he went through with Glenn Macnow his history and growing up and everything, and he went through his history, and he was a college freshman in September of '64, and September wasn't too far into the year, but Ray was so traumatized by what was going on with the Phillies that he couldn't study, he couldn't do his work, and he was getting terrible grades, and he was always very close to his parents. He told his parents everything, but he didn't want to tell them that. But his grades really suffered, and he'll tell you that he almost flunked out. I would love to get him on and have him tell that story. He's just such a treasure. So I'll have to figure out how to reach out to him.
Hey, did you know that when the Vet opened, the Philadelphia had a major softball league entry, and Ray Didinger was the third baseman on that team?
Didn't know that. I know he was.
They played double headers. Yeah,
didn't know that. No, didn't know that. I know he was a ball player. He's a pretty big guy. If his broad shoulders, and he's he looks athletic for a guy in his 70s. But I didn't know that. That's a great story. Was that with like Eddie Feiner and those guys?
We would see them in Max Myers, yeah.
Yeah, the King in his court. We'd see them in Max Myers, yeah.
And we used to play street hockey. Back to street hockey. We played street hockey. Remember, like where the basketball courts were? Next to the basketball courts was the volleyball court. We would play there at night.
Yeah, I never got into the hockey too much.
That's a dance sport.
Well, I just want to remind everybody we're here for my podcast, which is Carl's Corner. But I think Stephen, who made this Facebook page called "Remembering Memories of the '64 Phillies." And for people who are watching this, maybe here in California, understand this is Philadelphia based, but it's a baseball history, and we're here to reflect about that. But Steve, I think you almost queued up a video. I'm going to actually have Stan Hockman, but I'm going to go back into history about even technology and everything. That the Phillies 2 years before '64 were part of electronic and television history. And I don't even know if Steve saw this. I saw this a couple of years ago on YouTube, and I'm going to play it again, but it has the Phillies there, the significance of this.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have just been informed that this baseball game is being seen in Europe right now over the Telstar satellite. Let's give all the baseball fans in Europe a big hello from Chicago.
score in the ball game. This point, the Phillies, no runs, 1 hit, no errors. The Cubs, no runs, 2 hits, no errors. Well, we realize that all of this doesn't make much sense to you folks in Europe, but if we hadn't shown you a bit of our national game on this first transatlantic show, we'd never have heard the end of it. As a matter of fact, right now, our colleagues who are doing the translating are going crazy trying to say runs, hits, and errors in Swedish and Italian. In any case, here it is, a brief glimpse of American baseball played in the biggest arena in the world, all the way from Wrigley Field in Chicago to the Coliseum in Rome.
Steve, you notice who that was, that left-handed hitter?
It was Johnny.
Right?
That was Johnny, yeah.
You almost want to cry when you see that. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Hopefully it played, because on my end, for some reason, it looked like a glitch. So it played straight through without any glitch?
Yeah. Tony Taylor first bat, and then Callison.
Yeah. So if you understand technology today with all the satellites and everything, in 1962 was the first communication satellite, Telstar, that was put up there. And that was the first test for intercontinental live satellite broadcast to Europe. And they used, because the Cubs were playing in the afternoon game, and they picked that up, and the Phillies were playing there. And that's historic in that regard. How I would think that's kind of interesting, because
it's pretty wild. Yeah.
Did you ever see that?
I never saw that.
No, I never did. Yeah, just one facet of the technology we've seen in our lifetimes. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So I'm going to do one other thing here. I think I have it queued up. It's, because I think there's a couple videos on here that actually, rather than talk about it, actually show a little bit about the history.
In the early 1960s, the Philadelphia Phillies were one of the most disappointing teams in baseball. In 80 seasons, the team had never won a World Series. But in the spring of 1964, manager Gene Mauch had reason to be optimistic.
Gene, the 1964 Phillies, a serious contender for the flag.
Well, they've shown that they can win.
His team featured an explosive lineup, led by fan favorite slugger Johnny Callison, fleet-footed Tony Taylor, and Richard Anthony Allen, a rookie from the coal fields of western Pennsylvania, whose soaring home runs lifted the Phillies to 10 wins in their first 12 games.
42-ounce bat. I don't know of anybody else that used a bat that heavy and could swing it as effectively as he did.
Dick Allen had an amazing 1964 season. He was Rookie of the Year.
He had this heavy bat. You hit these tremendous home runs.
So I think that gives a little bit of a flavor of the year, how 64 started. Do you agree, Steve?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, that whole video was on the site today.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, they got off to a really hot start. Yeah. I remember Bunning won his first 2 games, and I can just remember. I mean, I don't remember who said it, but it's either Bill Campbell or By Som said, "Oh boy, the Phillies must be really thrilled with the way this trade has worked out so far." After 2 games that he had pitched, but he was just dominant. So yeah, they
were 10-2.
What's that?
They were 10-2.
10-2, but then I think they lost 4 straight.
St. Louis.
They had a hard time with the Cardinals that year.
They did. Yeah.
It was the only team they really had a hard time with right up to the end, unfortunately. So, they got off to a hot start. And it was interesting, though, because for most of the season, they were fighting the Giants. The Giants were the main competitor. And what a team they had. Oh, my God. I had a laugh. I mean, the Phillies lineup was not that potent. You want to talk a potent lineup, you talk about the Giants with Mays and McCovey and Jim Ray Hart and Felipe Alou and Tom Haller and some of those guys. I mean, that was a lineup. The Phillies, had 2 regulars, Callison and Allen. So,
Well, here's all the baseball cards of all
Yeah.
the players.
Yeah. That's somebody put that up too the other day. I mean, you look at there, you got Roy Sievers, who started the year, and really he just ran out of gas. He had a pretty decent season in '63, but he just ran out of gas. If he had been a typical season at first, they would have solved a lot of problems, but he just didn't have anything left. So, and it's a shame because he was such a classy guy.
For some reason, my dad really liked Roy Sievers. He always showed.
Well, he was a great, he was a great ball player. He had in his career he hit over 300 homers, and I'll tell you a funny story. Oh God, this goes back 15 years, maybe at least. I would once in a while I would Google on eBay. I would search '64 Phillies. So I found somebody was selling a baseball that Roy Sievers had hit, and it was caught as a foul ball in '64. And I knew he was still alive. So I searched, and he was living in St. Louis. So I researched it, and sure enough, he had a listed phone number in St. Louis. I called up. I spoke to his daughter, and I told her, I said, "Look, I see this baseball that was hit by your dad. If I were to buy it, could I send it to him and have him sign it?" And she said, "Oh my God, he would be thrilled." But I didn't go for it because it was too much money. It was like $100 for this baseball. Probably would be worth more now, but I'm not that kind of collector, so I didn't go for it. But it was a nice connection. But he was a classy guy. Another guy that just ran out of gas was Cal McLish. He had a terrific season in '63, and they were counting on him to win 10, 15 games. He just didn't have anything in the tank left. So those were two guys that, pitcher and a first baseman had to be replaced. And, it's tough.
Well, here's a little short video it's narrated by Philadelphia's iconic John Facenda, but it gives another little flavor of that year.
In the summer of '64, everything seemed perfect for the Phillies. For more than 4 months, first place belonged to Gene Mock's men, and their relentless drive to the pennant was led by a 22-year-old rookie whom they called Richie Allen, the best young player to come into the National League in years. Though he made 41 errors at third base and led the league in strikeouts, Allen was an awesome talent with boundless potential. But the Phillies' top long ball threat was left-hander Johnny Callison, who won the '64 All-Star game with a shocking 2-on, 2-out homer in the bottom of the ninth. It seemed there was simply no denying this team. With just a dozen games to play, the Phils held a cozy 6.5 game lead, and the champagne was on ice.
Glad to stop it right there.
Yeah. Yeah, we all know that happened, but it's the way that season is, and the gods of baseball, but it's just a matter of it was a magical season, and we're actually going to celebrate the season and not the way it ended, but for Steve, for you to actually have the memories of that, and it's just like the printed. I wonder how much value of the tickets that were printed for the World Series, even though they were never used. I'm sure there's some value to them.
Well, yeah, it's one of those things that, for me, it's more of a personal thing. I wanted to get a set of those for years, and the timing, I just never could find it. I remember once I was at a show and a guy had one of them and he wanted like $50-$60 for it. And I said, nah, it's too much money for one. And the set that I bought, I think I paid around $100 for the four. They were in mint condition. The guy that had them under the glass in his desk. And, and the guy that was selling them really didn't even appreciate what it was. But I remember when I took it to be framed, the guy that framed it said to me, he says, "Boy, I can tell this means a lot to you." So I said, "It sure does." But at the Callison Memorial, I forget who said it. One of the players said that we all focus on the 10-game losing streak, and what we should do is focus on the first 150 games. How magical they were, and how everything went right. And let's try not to think about that 10 games. And that's what I've tried to do since then. Johnny died in, I think, 2006. And so that's, we're coming up on like almost 20 years. So for the last 20 years, I've tried to focus on that and not so much on the 10 games, although I can tell you every game. I can't tell you the scores, but I remember every single game in that 10-game streak.
Well,
what's so cool about that video, Carl? You have, like, I was watching the Richie Allen at bat, and I'm going, "Oh, there's that ball. That ball's hit to left field. That's Crosley Field." What was Crosley Field famous for? That terrace.
Yeah, the terrace.
The ballparks had idiosyncrasies.
Yeah.
Yankee Stadium, whatever, 457 to left center field. Just those ballparks.
Yeah, the dimensions and the unique character and
the scoreboard at Connie Mack.
Yeah, it's just great. I mean, I've met some people over the years. There you go. Let's see who's.
It's Bob Gibson against Richie Allen and Tim McCarver's catching.
And who's not playing is number 6 isn't in the lineup there.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. I just wonder, is that from 64?
Well, I'm not sure what the year is, but it's really a historic picture with Gibson and McCarver there.
Yeah, well, Richie's playing left because I see 15 in left field. 10 was Bill White.
First. So it's probably in the 60s.
Hollis, Amaro, Dalrymple, and who's 20? I don't know.
Herrenstein?
11 is Dalrymple, yep, and 25 is Tony Gonzalez.
Yeah.
12, I think, was Johnny Briggs. Yeah, Johnny Briggs. I think he wore 10, but then when Bill White came, they gave him they gave Bill White 10. That was his number.
And Cookie Rojas, second base, and then Tony Taylor at the top of the order. Yep.
Is that 16? Yeah, Tony. Yeah, it'd be Cookie Rojas. Yeah.
Now, I did not realize until my cousin Vince mentioned this to me about a year ago about the wall. I always thought it was gray all the way. But on the center field section of it, it's black. I never noticed that, and Vince did notice that.
Yeah, I it's something. I don't think I noticed it either.
I was always intrigued by the right field wall. I mean, and the dimensions. How is it that this all of a sudden, like, 329, 405, 447, 420, 334? How do you remember that for a stadium 60 years ago?
Shows you where you've been the last 60 years, Vince.
If I'm not bowling or talking to Dory Lenz, I'm watching. Now that picture is after they shortened center field.
Yeah, they pulled it in. Yeah,
1970. Yeah. But I remember what the capacity was, seating capacity.
Was it 34?
No, 33,608.
33, yeah, okay.
608. Now look at this.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of standing room.
They got some splaining to do.
But they're allowed to. So they got 4,000 standing room in that place.
But that first game, the first game of the losing streak, the Chico Ruiz game, they came back. They're up 6.5, and they had 21,000 people in the stands for that game. Now it might be, they used to start the games at 8:00. It was kind of late.
Yeah.
And
do we want to keep this on?
Down. Take it down.
For people who don't know, that's Chico Ruiz, who actually he stole home. That was the first game of the losing streak.
Yeah. I said, the box score says there were 20,000 people, but I'll bet over the years more than 100,000 have said they were there.
Steve, you know this one because you read the Bill Campbell book, but you also listened to the audio thing.
Yeah.
One of the snippets was that steal of home plate in L.A., Willie Davis against Maurice Stevens. Now, that happened 2 days earlier.
Right.
On a Saturday. I thought, oh boy, the next game, the Phillies won in LA. Monday, they flew back to Philly and they played. That was the Chico Ruiz game.
Well, that, the crazy thing with that was a Saturday night game. And, the papers came out early. And I used to live for the newspaper because you didn't know, you didn't know how to get any other information. And I remember waking up that Sunday morning saying, like, what happened? Did they win? Did they not win? And it had it was probably late morning until I heard on the news or something that they had lost in such a crazy way. But
KYW wasn't on, and you couldn't get the sports at the 15 and the 45 at that point.
Yeah.
Now, Carl, didn't Sam say when he got that he didn't like the crackle of the thunder during that game? I said that was made it so cool was you heard that crackle from an AM station for a storm in the area.
There, I think we have to actually bring up the flavor with that first video I played from the beginning, that the broadcasters that they had, that they for us, they were our gods. And, Bill Campbell, Richie Ashburn was only in his second year as the color commander. I think he retired, and by some, they painted the picture for us, even though we were at home. So that's where listening to a ball game, it's like nobody listens to a ball game on radio anymore.
Oh, no. But those guys taught me more baseball, the things like, I'll never forget, you just don't seem to see it much anymore. Like, if you've got less than 2 outs in the ninth inning, and they bring the infield in and the outfield in. I remember just things like that. And they would always say, oh, it's a tough way to play baseball. Bill Campbell. And you remember after the games, they had something called Diamond Derby. Remember that? It was a contest. Yeah, they used to have a contest. And, if you got, they would ask you a question. And if you answered the question right, you won something. So I was on. I remember I had Hebrew school. They said they're going to call me, between 5:30 and 6, something like that. So I had to leave Hebrew school early, get home, and nobody could touch the phone. I'm waiting for the phone call. Luckily, I got a question that I could answer, and I'll never forget. They asked. Question had to do with Ty Cobb, who had the highest lifetime batting average ever. And I had gotten a book. Somebody had given me a book about baseball statistics, and I studied that book. Man, if I had studied my schoolwork as much as I studied that book, so I knew Ty Cobb was the all-time leading. So I win I successfully win it, and I won a Lufthansa bag. It sounds like something you would have, Vince. A Lufthansa bag. It's like this little bag, it's like a little travel bag. What a waste of time, They would give out other things. They'd give out tickets to games or different stuff. I get this little, crappy bag. Oh,
when we talked about the announcers. I think I mentioned this to Bill Campbell when we met him at the book sign. I said, Bill, I remember one time there was a fly ball to left field, and Ted Savage goes back to the wall, and Bill Campbell says he catches like he's nailed to the cross. And what am I picturing? I'm picturing he's like this. I mean, that was the wonderful use your imagination because you're listening to it. You're not looking at it.
I always remember him saying Frank Robinson was great with Cincinnati. He hit one over the Coca-Cola sign, and he said Frank Robinson just hit a transcontinental blast.
Wow. But that's another thing. You can't say Bill Campbell when he would say over the beverage sign, They weren't a sponsor, Coca-Cola, so we had to say hit it over the beverage sign. Just amazing, these little things.
Oh, I didn't know that. I don't remember that.
Yeah.
That's
listen
he was a
to your
great
Sam CD to hear it.
Yeah, he was a great announcer. He was just great.
Absolutely.
And a nice man too when you get to meet him. But I used to go see him at remotes. He would do these remote shows. He would be at a car dealership, or he'd be somewhere, and go see him and talk to him. And I remember taking my kids, and my kids were bored, like, who is this old guy? Because by then, he was an old guy. Just loved hearing him. Loved talking baseball with him. It was a great time. We had great announcers, and because they weren't on TV. Yeah, right. So in the radio, they really had to describe what was going on.
And Campbell did Phillies. He did the Eagles. I'm listening to that replay and some of the stuff, and his diction is so incredible. I mean, he wouldn't say standing; he'd say standing, jammed.
Yeah.
I mean, he just said you have that good diction, a great vocabulary, and he had it.
Oh yeah. He was a pro. He was such a pro. I mean, you're right. The way he took such pride in the job that he did.
This goes way back. He actually did the Eagles 60th 1960 championship game at Franklin Field.
And he did Will Chamberlain's 100 points
in Hershey, Pennsylvania.
Right.
In Hershey, Pennsylvania. Yeah.
And he got to do the Sixers, the 9 and 73ers.
Oh God.
Yeah.
They had about 800 people.
Good or bad.
So
that's right.
But just to get people again, I know we're in the 40-minute hour, but people who may be just watching this again, I'm here with my cousin Vince and a special guest Steve, who actually created this Facebook page, which is actually taking off for sports enthusiasts back in Philadelphia, like myself, a page for on Facebook, members of the 64 Phillies. And we're just going out and kind of reminiscing and showing some pictures and some videos of back the day. And I actually forgot to actually put my ticker on, and hopefully in subsequent podcasts, we might be able to go live and have some other guests come on and maybe make some comments and actually have this grow. Because Steve, we're in the 42. What do you think about, we're not one and done. We're going to do maybe a week, maybe every bi-weekly do another one, have a guest on, maybe eventually we could go live. So that's what we're looking at. Hopefully you agree to that.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I took the liberty. I wanted Julie Betch, I guess is how you say her name. I wanted her to come on first, and she said she'd bring her mom. And the thing is, her mom was alive when all this, but she was too young to remember it. So, because Johnny,
that's cool.
They were young parents. I mean, they were parents like at age 20, and and they were young grandparents. And Johnny, who died at 67, had great grandchildren. Interesting thing with him was he had 3 girls. I don't know how many grandchildren he had, but they were all girls, all granddaughters, no boys. And then the first boy in the family was a great grandson. But he did get to see him. He did get to see the great grandson.
Very cool. Wow.
There it is. Yeah. Handsome guy. I did a card show with him. in 1990, I think it was. And can you imagine? The guy was my hero. I'm sitting there with him for 2 hours as he's signing. It doesn't get any better than that.
Well, I told you I went by the car dealership that he worked at on the Boulevard in Lubbock just to catch a glimpse of him.
Yeah. He
was my idol too, and I normally batted right-handed, but I batted left-handed with his stance. The way.
I did. I was a right-handed, but I used to practice, switch hitting, and I would always do his stance. He used to tap the plate. Remember, he used to with the left arm, he would tap like the outside of the plate, and then do his practice swings. Yeah, I could tell I could pick his swing out of anywhere. He just had such a sweet swing.
Interesting picture here in Dodger Stadium with nobody in the stands.
Nobody. Isn't that something? Nobody out in there and those are good seats.
Not nowadays. Those seats now are about $1,000 a piece.
I know. That's
here's another one in the in the locker room with Johnny Briggs behind him. It's what a time,
And the thing is, he was 25 years old. He was a kid. He was just a kid.
And he didn't start off as a Philly. He was a White Sox.
Yeah. He started but leave it to John Quinn. He knew what he was doing.
There we go. Oh. Good Lord. You and John Quinn.
It gives me a hard time. I mean, the guy built that team. I will admit, after they got so close, he started trading away the players. But man, he built that team. He didn't make one mistake. All the guys he picked up from other teams. He picked up Callison, Gonzalez, Tony Taylor, Cookie Rowe.
I'll give him the Carlton trade too.
Who?
The Carlton trade.
Oh, the Carlton trade. That was his last one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why he's on the Wall of Fame now. That's John people, it's different times. The guy treated it like it was his own money, like he'd get a bonus if he kept the payroll under a certain.
I believe he did. I'm sure those guys back in the day did, or so much, a ticket being sold.
Yeah.
Do you remember when a guy threw a no-hitter, they'd give him a $1,000 bonus?
Yeah.
The catcher got 500.
Yeah, it's just different times. I mean, like all those guys. One of the things, Julie posted a picture of Johnny with a loaf of bread. He did a bread salesman in the off season.
Was it Freihofer or Bond?
What's that?
Was it Freihofer or Bond bread?
Oh God, I don't remember. We'd have to take a look.
Freihofer.
Yeah, maybe.
Now, you just mentioned about a bonus for pitching a no-hitter. But do you think this guy, now this one, because it was in Connie Mack and was one of Hall of Famers, you think he got a bonus for this?
Yeah. Boy, I remember going into school the day after that, and there was a kid in my class. I don't know if you knew him, Vince Stu Noble. Did you know him?
I knew the name.
Yeah, he was like the star. He was like the star of our class. One of them. We had a lot of terrific kids in that class. I remember coming in the next day, and Stu Noble says, "Oh, I was at the game last night." I'm like, "Oh my God, I can't imagine being at that game." Then there's another guy in our group who I went to high school with. His first game was seeing Koufax. He went to the game, saw the Koufax no-hitter, and then his family happened to be in New York on Father's Day, and he saw Bunning's perfect game. So what are the odds of that? 2 games, no-hitter by Koufax and a perfect game by Bunning. I mean, unbelievable. Whereas Bill was, can you believe that?
You're looking at, we talk about Carlton and Koufax, and Willie Stargell will use the same line to describe, but he says trying to hit them is like trying to drink coffee with a fork. And they wrote a book about that. Great book.
Yeah.
Great book.
And you mentioned Carlton. Carlton never had a no-hitter. Never had so many.
He had a one-hitter. He had against the Giants at 72. He gave a leadoff out in San Francisco. Gave a leadoff single, and then he retired 27 in a row.
Yeah, but he never one of these. So many great pitchers that never had a no-hitter, and he was. I don't think Robin Roberts had one either.
He had 2 19 strikeout games, and he lost both games, and they were both to the Mets.
Yeah, unbelievable. That's why we love baseball.
I actually had this yearbook. But if you look at the left side, you still there, Steve?
Yeah, I'm getting something here. I'm pulling out. Okay. I got a box under my desk, and I got a lot of stuff here. And wait.
Hey, Steve, I noticed behind on your wall is that picture of Connie Mack Stadium, correct?
It sure is. It sure is.
I've got the same thing. Remember when you were a kid and you're Catholic, you had the picture of John F. Kennedy? That's what you had for a Phillies fan. That picture.
Well, how many houses did we go into as paper boys where we saw that?
Well, what I'm showing the Phillies yearbook in 1964. And this was actually, they had a second edition after the perfect game of bunting, and they had that
Yeah.
little asterisk, and I actually printed 1 or 2 pages on the inside about the perfect game. And I wish I still had this somehow. But when I saw this with memorabilia, I remember that 64, because it's an interesting with the red, like the maroon behind there, and just the faces of the players there. So
Here I've got this. You can see that. That's still, I think, the last out of the perfect game. Yeah, 2. It's the 9th inning. Yeah, 2 out, 2 balls, 2 strikes. It's the last pitch.
And who was the name of the player that struck out?
Johnny Stevenson.
Johnny Stevenson.
No,
Yeah.
Okay. That's the at Shea Stadium then.
Yeah, that's at Shea Stadium.
Yeah, John Stevenson. Yeah.
Where is it? I know I've got it here, but
Well, you got to be prepared next time, Steve. Not pull these out of a box.
Yeah, you're not kidding me. You're making a mess here.
Now they're thinking I decapitated my guest.
Here, I got this. No, this is the Phillies Centennial team. No, this isn't what I, I got a mess here. I'll have to clean it up afterwards. But yeah, I've got the yearbook. I bought the yearbook on eBay, but I've got a bunch of stuff. One of the things I do is I like to collect signed books, and in fact, tomorrow night I'm going to go see retired Justice Stephen Breyer. But I've got for my 40th birthday. Let me walk away for a second here.
Well, yeah, that's live. That's live podcasting when I just get up and walk away.
Yeah, that's what's. I don't think you can see this very well.
Callison.
It's a signed bat. My friends got me this for my 40th birthday.
That was last year, right?
A couple of years. 4 years ago. 4 years ago.
You happen to know what that might be valued at?
I haven't seen it. Like I said, I'm not a big memorabilia guy. There's just so much stuff out there, and I just so I don't know what it's worth. It's unfortunately, it's done in marker. And you can still see he signed it, but it's starting to fade a little bit. It's clearly him. But I have no idea what it's worth. Probably a couple $100, maybe more. I don't know.
Cool.
My kids will have to deal with it.
Yeah. Well,
it's
amazing that we are that last group that understands. I say, look, I use football in an analogy. I'm one of the people that has watched every Super Bowl in its entirety and go back to, actually, I do remember 1960 when Bill Mazeroski, hit the home run because we had neighbors.
I don't have any memories of that.
Because we had neighbors from Pittsburgh 2 doors away, and we were actually at their home during the 7th game that day, and that's why I remember it. Really? And they were all going, and I was 7 years old. Yeah, they were next to the Pivas, but and I remember the '62 World Series when McCovey hit the line drive to Richardson, and the Yankees still won. So,
hey, Carl, I want to tell the Bing Crosby story about the kinescope for the Pittsburgh World Series. Remember?
Yeah,
there was never video of it, but Bing Crosby had somebody record off the TV, and that's what they discovered 20 years ago. And I remember Bob Costas had people from the Pirates and from the Yankees, and they rebroadcast it. Fascinating. Just a great quality.
Mazeroski was still living. He was there.
Yeah, he's still alive.
I remember watching that. Well, that's how crazy technology was. Instant replay didn't come through until 65, 66. So they actually had to have kinescope was actually a 16 millimeter motion picture camera that was mounted on top next to a TV screen and was able to capture it on film. Now look at the technology. to
Yeah,
us
really.
was antiquated back then to what it is now. I'm on the other coast talking about, this podcast, miraculous the way it's working. So, well, Steve, we've covered some. We
A
didn't
little
cover
bit.
everything.
A taste.
And right, just a taste. And actually, I would love to see what kind of reaction we get. Now, I'm going to have to say once we end this recording, just to stay on, so it could all download, so we could get it, for broadcast. But I think, tell me your thoughts. What do you think that what would you like to cover the next couple ones?
Well, Vince had suggested, we try to do the season in order, and I like that idea. But it's so hard to focus on games that we don't remember. I mean, like I said, I remember the early games. I remember Bunning and just being so excited how well he pitched. But I think, if we can keep it somewhat in an order, I guess it depends on who our guests are. If, you bring in, you bring somebody, they're going to want to talk about their experiences. But let me reach out. I think, like I said, I did it only because I don't know, took a kind of liking to her. She seems like a nice young lady, Johnny's granddaughter, and get her and her mom on and, talk about Johnny, the guy. Now, I know Richie Allen's son is around. Who would be great, but he's not. I haven't seen him in a while. Mark Carfagno. He's the guy that started the Dick Allen Belongs in the Hall of Fame group.
Oh.
I haven't seen him around. I don't know whether he's not well, but he, that's his baby. And, he was there with the family. So I don't know if he's, I don't know what the story is. There are people that are close to him, but he'd be an interesting guy. And he certainly has connections to the family. So maybe we get a Dick Allen Jr. on.
But that's pretty cool, Steve. You can do one on Callison, one on Allen, and you fill 45 minutes.
And then there's guys still around who I've never reached out to. Johnny Briggs is around. Back in the day. Back in the day,
I on your site to get a live player.
Yeah, back in the day, I talked to Ray Culp, and
Ray Culp, wow,
he's in Texas, and it'd be interesting to hear what he has to say about those final 10 games, why he wasn't pitching. And now Art Mahaffey's around. Now Art, you never know what he's going to say. It's never going to be good about Mark, but you never know what he's going to. He's got.
It's a shame for him because he had two really bad outings. And then his next outing was the Chico Ruiz game. So he pitched a good game there. But
it's a great game. And he pitched a really good game in against the Braves that Saturday, left with the lead. And, the oldest guy he's still around is Bobby Shantz, but I don't know if he would.
What's he, 100?
Right?
He was old.
He's in his late 90s. He's up.
He was old when he was pitching. He was like,
he must be like 98. I saw him about 2 years ago at an event, and he still looks the same. He's got the toupee. Nice man. He's
very short, right?
Really he's short. Real short. He's real short. Yeah, he is tiny. So
wasn't he?
Yeah, he was
5'4".
I'm sorry, what, Carl?
Wasn't he 5'4", 5'5"?
I think he might be a little taller than that, but he's short. He is he's little. He's little. So
well, we didn't play it tonight, but I know you talked about Mark and his. Actually, there was a video that I have queued up that Stan Hochman, which one of iconic writers, has there on there talking about Gene Mark, and obviously we could talk about that subsequent ones.
Yeah,
but Steve, I'll say you have. We'll have this playing on all of the pages, all the platforms, my YouTube page, Facebook, and I'll be able to put the link onto the page.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yes. And then actually I put you down as an administrator on here. So I'll show you in subsequent times that you could actually put in there as a destination for it to go on there when we go live. I would like to go live eventually because we could actually have the comments, people making on the comment section, we could actually respond to comments live on that, and when we go live on the page. So, but you as an administrator for your page, you have to do that authorization. But I think, like we said, this is a pilot one, and we're going to do, and actually we're going to air it. I think it went pretty well.
I think so.
I thought this was good. I mean, I think you can air it like this.
No, this was good. I enjoyed it. I think we covered a lot of ground, a lot of reminiscing. But, when we get guests, probably have to, get some specific questions about things. But we'll play it by ear. It'll be good.
Yeah, I'll produce and direct it even from afar. Like you see that if you have them on here and you want to ask them and actually interview them, I can just step back into we call it the green room here in Technology Land, and you could have the floor. So it's this medium has its amazing possibilities and everything on here, but we want to get the word out. So once for our audience who's watching this, and if you like this, we're going to, if you could make a comment, subscribe to the channels, mention something to Steve, and actually Vince. Vince is my cousin. He's my brother from another mother, but it's amazing how you and Steve knew each other back in the day for a job that no longer exists. Paperboard, right?
No.
So, now, Paul, you let Steve know when you're going to have it up so he can announce it to the group.
Well, it's 8 o'clock your time. It'll take me real time about an hour to review it, make sure just everything's okay, no glitches. What I'll do, just so everybody knows, I think I'm going to schedule this probably sometime tomorrow on Thursday, maybe around noon, 2 o'clock your time, and a little bit earlier, here on the West Coast. Because look, this is the great thing about this, Steve. This could go, nationwide, because I have dear friends here that, are baseball fans of the old, the Dodgers and the Padres and the Angels, and another friend is still with the Giants, and would love to hear about this. So we can bring in other groups from other areas and where this is going to go. So it's great. So anything in closing, cuz?
Yeah,
I'm good. I had a good time doing this. I think we scratched the surface.
Absolutely, we did.
Barely scratched the surface on that run. Yeah.
Okay.
And so, Steve, we'll talk offline once this is all. We can make up the next schedule. So everybody who's watching this, hopefully you subscribe and put some comments on here and what we could do, and other guests maybe we didn't even talk about yet that maybe we could get on.
We've got a lot of months to work on this. So
you got it. And so starting the commemorating of the 60th year of our beloved 64 Phillies, even though they didn't make it to the World Series, but boy, did we have a heck of a run that year with our iconic players, Jim Bunning, Chris Short, and my favorite, Johnny Callison. So on that note, I'm going to say goodbye to everybody, and we'll be seeing you on the next one, and maybe we'll be live. And Steve will be talking offline. Just stay on. And then for everybody out there, we'll see you next time.